So what hairdressers can tell us about sustainability? Well, what we were interested in with hairdressers is not only do they use a lot of resources as a sector, lots of water, energy, chemicals, their main impact actually is in how they model behaviours to their clients that we all use at home. So that was our real interest. So we all know what the challenges are. How do we go from an economy that's using 3 planets worth of resources, changing the weather, rivers drying up and so on, to an economy that just uses 1 planet's worth of resources, that has stable weather and clean water. And importantly, we're all just as happy and healthy. So what we need to do, we need to look at the outcomes we want to achieve and think, how can we achieve these using less resources? So business is a big user of resources, so they have a key interest in this. And they're really sort of leading the way in many areas. And businesses can look at their carbon footprint from what products they make in the first place to how they manufacture them, distribute them, how they're used, waste disposal, and so on. And they also interact with the consumers and the consumers' use of the products. So the way they kind of approached it is sometimes by informing choice. So you've all seen these sort of energy ratings. Now, first that was just about informing choice, but you try now and go into an electrical store or a department store and say, I want a fridge that's less efficient, please. They just won't sell you one. They will only sell you the A-rated appliances. Other stores have gone further. They remove choice entirely. You go into B&Q and say, I would like a bench, please, made from wood that's destroying the rainforests. They just won't. They just don't source their wood from those forests anymore. They only source wood that's been certified as from a sustainable forest. Now, many businesses have looked and they've realised, actually, our main carbon footprint isn't in our products, it's in how they're being used by their customers. So, for example, Procter & Gamble realised that the carbon footprint of their washing powder was nothing compared to how it's being used. So they designed powders that could be washed at a lower temperature, and then they marketed it there to their consumers. Levi's went one step further, and they marketed the idea of actually not washing your jeans at all. Quote from the CEO is, denim aficionados don't wash their jeans. And if you do want to, there's a little bit on the label saying, wash cold, line dry, tells you how to do it. Wash less, most importantly. So big businesses can afford to do this, but what about small businesses? And these matter because 99% of businesses are small businesses. 90% of them are less than 10 people, and they don't have those resources. But on the other hand, they can have massive impact. One thing they have over big businesses is the owner's values can drive the business. If the owner decides they want to do things a different way, they'll just do it a different way. They don't have to get in touch with shareholders or tell their foreign subsidiaries. They can talk to everyone. They're all under one roof. And my research shows that most small businesses really do want to address their social and environmental impacts. And there's a lovely case study of Modbury. I don't know if anyone heard this, a little town in Devon, 2007. They decided they'd like to make an example of plastic bags as an environmental issue. It's an unnecessary use of resources. They're used, they're thrown away. The outcome, carrying shopping home, is done in probably the least efficient way by this. So 43 traders stopped selling, and that was the tyre traders in Modbury, stopped selling plastic bags, stopped providing them. If you wanted to take your shopping home, you had to bring your own bag or buy a reusable bag. So they completely disrupted the behaviour. And a lot of this is about behaviour change. It's about the habits we form. They changed the habits. So influential, 43 traders. They provided a model for San Francisco, who followed their example, for Stroud. So cities and states around the world are picking up on this. So our green salon makeover. We were looking at hairdressers in part because they're a more trusted source of information, even than doctors, certainly more than academics and the government. So we're trying to engage them in looking at what they can do with sustainability, meeting these challenges. So we learnt that if you blow dry hair, for example, there's techniques to do it to use less energy. We learnt that it's best to let your hair dry naturally. We learnt 101 uses for waste hair. Some teamed up with the local garage, giving it to them to mop up oil. Some gave it to the local garden centre to keep their plants warm over winter. Some put it into a wormery, turned it into fertiliser, put it on their vegetables. Some were talking about high-tech solutions such as light sensors, but most of them were just looking at behavioural measures, not turning all the lights on straight away. We came across new products like the thermal cap. Now, blow drying uses lots of energy. So the thermal cap uses the heat from your own scalp to dry the hair. Great for heat treatments, great for lowering the noise in salon, great for speeding colour along. We're introduced to eco towels that were biodegradable. Organic products were one thing that came up quite a lot, partly because of the health issues with shampoo. One salon found that when they turned to organic, none of their hairdressers suffered from dermatitis anymore. And it's interesting that in the USA, hairdressers have the same health insurance premiums as firefighters. In Denmark, they won't let you mix normal colour with ammonia unless you're under a fume extraction system. So organic was of great interest. But what was quite interesting was they all told me organic colour doesn't work, as if it's a matter of fact. But in fact, the latest formulations, it really does work. I had to be a guinea pig to prove to everyone it works. So I'm a convert, and they're all converts too. Some hairdressers actually advise their clients who are coming in more and more often with persistent grey, their hair's going dry and brittle from too much colour. They actually advise them, do you want to really still keep on colouring, or do you want to help us make that transition back to your natural hair colour? Other hairdressers were, well, you're talking yourself out of business, aren't you? But the ones that took that approach said, well, we get greater client loyalty if we care for their hair as much as they do. And they thought that was a benefit for them as well as the clients. We're introduced to the idea that most of us use too much shampoo. So some of the staff would just plaster it on. So some had shampoo dispensers that limited the amount of shampoo. We also discussed that for most hair, you're better off just using very little and washing just once. So why then were hairdressers routinely washing twice? Now, some of them felt it was a service they were expected to provide. But one outcome was they realised that just simply by telling their clients, you know, I might be washing twice now, but actually you're better off just washing once. The surfactants, the thickeners in the hair, they actually strip the natural oils from the hair. It's not that good for it. You're better off just washing it once. They realised the impact they could have simply through their advice. So, question, guess what product has the lowest carbon footprint and is the Hollywood latest trick? Any ideas? Dry shampoo. Yes, dry shampoo is a product that some hairdressers were already aware of, but a lot of them weren't. And Boots actually found of all their products, that was the one with the lowest carbon footprint. And I think sometimes our language can obscure the best solutions. We say, I want to wash my hair. But actually you don't. You want clean, dry hair, don't you? So why then are you wetting it? So you wet your hair, you apply shampoo, it strips the natural oils. Okay, so you apply conditioner because you want to put those back in. All the time the water's running, the heater's going. And then you've still got wet hair, so you need to dry your hair. But drying your hair makes it all brittle and dry. Those out there with long hair will know what I mean. So you put product on it. So the fact is, we're not achieving our outcome, clean, dry hair, in the most efficient way. Actually, you're doing things in order to undo them. You're doing them, protecting against doing the next thing. When we were all given samples of dry shampoo, we were converted. My morning was transformed from trying to get in the bathroom in the first place and then being kicked out by my son because he wanted to get in to wash his hair. All the time it took, it was just in there, brush out, done and dusted. And some hairdressers were really aware of this. They were offering blow-dry treatments, which really just involving dry shampoo, styling, no need for washing, no need for drying. So some still thought it was the old type that they knew from their childhood, which left kind of powdery stuff in the hair. No longer. So that was a real learning outcome there. Now, what do the planet and hair have in common? Well, they both dislike too much heat. They both dislike too much chemical use. So this was great because sometimes there were tensions between self-interest, client interest, business interest, and planetary interest. But that all came together. And one interesting finding was that women in South Africa, 30% of their income is spent on their hair. Now, that might be a cultural thing, but we care deeply about what our hair looks like. So hairdressers who see themselves as hair care consultants are on the same side as their clients, the same side as the hair, and the same side as the planet. So that really gave us a route through to sort of discuss what does this mean then for practices such as blow drying. So Many hairdressers felt this was a service they should provide, they were expected to provide. Some decided, well, we can go the way with plastic bags. Some shops will make you charge with a plastic bag. Lidl will do that, for example. Some will encourage you to bring your own, but still provide them. Why don't we charge extra for blow drying? Other hairdressers were like, well, even if the client accepts that, we like to see our hairdressers our clients leave looking fabulous. We don't want them leaving with wet hair. Then another hairdresser said, well, you can just let it dry naturally. We've learned that if you let it dry naturally, you can still get all the benefits of the blow dry, just blow drying it when it's almost dry the last 2 minutes. There were discussions about time, women with long hair, that would take too much time. But one thing they all realised was actually, whether you blow dry or not in the salon, simply telling your customers, do you know, blow drying isn't actually that great for your hair. You'd be better off letting it dry naturally where you can and just doing it in the last few minutes. Or hey, I tell you what, why don't you try this free sample of dry shampoo? It's really come on. And I think then the penny dropped and the hairdressers realised exactly how much impact they had in setting our norms of behaviour, our practices, how we treat our hair. So we started off with groups of hairdressers. We might have 5 around a table. We put the challenges of sustainability to them and we said, right, you discuss amongst yourselves, share the knowledge you have. How can we achieve these outcomes that we want with fewer use of resources? And when you look at how the energy use of hairdryers and of water heaters compares to normal electrical products, computers, televisions, you can see exactly how much energy we're using needlessly in washing and drying our hair, not doing so in the most efficient way possible. And if you take just one of those hairdressers, if you take maybe just this one here, okay, if she routinely talked to her customers about the new products, about dry shampoo, about washing less, about not, blow drying less, how many people might she influence? And this person might have kids and is setting their behaviours, which they'll take on to their friends. This person might tell a friend. So you've got all these 5. What about all hairdressers in your town? Then before you know it, massive impact. So this is what hairdressers can tell us about sustainability. And I'd like to finish with a few words from the hairdressers. So these are some of the quotes that came out. One said, yes, there's always going to be customers who aren't particularly interested, but most of them I found are interested. They do want to know about this kind of thing. Another said, yeah, they also have water and energy bills to think about. A lot of the talk was actually they can save a lot of money by using less water, but so can the clients. They're interested too. One, and this was quite a common one, so the question to me came down to, did I want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? And taking that approach has given me more pride in my work and in my profession as a whole. And lastly, I no longer feel like a blonde with scissors. I feel like a professional who's making a difference. So to conclude, we can be smarter. We can look at the outcomes we want to achieve and we can get there with fewer resources. We started with a group of hairdressers who, when faced with all the problems I put in front of them, thought, there's nothing we can do. And then they realised, actually, we have massive impact. We really do. Helping us achieve the same outcomes with fewer resources. So we have happy hair, happy planet, lower bills. And I've left up there some of the details. We called it the Green Salon Makeover. So we have our sort of Facebook page and our blogs and so on. So thank you very much.